It seems James alluded earlier to the Harvard study. Are there, with this kind of earth-shattering news out there, are there other studies that are now being undertaken to look at this whole issue that you're aware of? And if not, why do you think that it's not being looked at closer?
Well, at least in the study that I alluded to earlier, they actually, well, in France actually, they did a similar study with the mice. They found that not only did resveratrol, actually in that particular study, when they gave high doses of the resveratrol, they found that the mice didn't get as fat as the study that was done in the U.S., but also it was more of an endurance study. In other words, there they found that the mice actually had more endurance. They were able to run almost twice as far on the little treadmill that they put. They attached a little probe onto the tail of the mice, and they have the mice walking, and they have the tape that the mice walk on, and they could find that the mice that had the resveratrol went almost twice as far. The mice that didn't have the resveratrol gave out sooner. And when they actually look at the muscle tissue, they see that the concentration of mitochondria is much higher. So I'm sure there will be more and more studies like this.
This is what I found fascinating when I read that chapter, is that most medicine and medication is bent on treating disease after you have the disease. And what you've envisioned in this book is that the mitochondria can be enhanced, protected, nurtured in the body by taking either supplements or new medications that'll come on the horizon, so that the diseases don't spread, and thereby that's how you come to the hypothesis that that people will be able to live longer taking resveratrol or antioxidants.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, well, let's face it, even the drugs that we have today for treating diseases, some of these drugs are actually based on plant or natural products that have been tweaked, changed in a certain way, have to go through the human studies just to make sure that they're safe. And after a long process with the FDA, then they'll be allowed to be prescribed. With these natural antioxidants, they seem to have, at least in vitro, in other words, in the lab, and with animals, they seem to have beneficial effects. Small human studies as well, at least to make sure there's no toxicity. I envision that they will take these type of natural products, and I'm sure Big Pharma will use the molecular structure and try to come up with their own proprietary formulas to imitate the natural effects that we already find in these compounds. But it would be a whole new paradigm that we're dealing with here, as far as life, as opposed to living longer, as opposed to trying to deal with sickness all the time. In other words, trying to live longer, healthier. People are living longer by avoiding things that are bad, but at the same time, it'd be nice to take things in naturally that will promote continued healthy living.
As kind of a skeptic of the pharmaceutical industry and also just healthcare in general, there's really no incentive for the pharmaceutical companies and major healthcare to endorse this, because all it's going to do is decrease the number of patients that are ultimately coming to them over time. And that if people don't have heart disease, diabetes, some of these other issues, and you can get a massive reduction in this, clearly that's going to hit into the revenues of those guys. From your perspective, do you view that the pharmaceutical companies act in that type of manner ever, or major healthcare?
You could take that perspective, no question about it.
I mean, it's a bit of a jaded perspective, but it is a perspective.
Well, I think as time goes on, people are going to demand that we have products that can help us enjoy life. You don't want to be. Let's say you're living longer. You've survived a heart attack. You've survived. You're worried about having a stroke. You're worried about the complications from diabetes. You want to live life, and people are going. And not only that, we have the cost of being ill. It's very expensive to be very ill, and it's a big drain just to the family.
But from your perspective, though, is enough emphasis put on prevention within the medical community, as well as just the broader healthcare community, even looking at the insurance companies? Because to me, a good example is I'm someone who works out 5 days a week. I should be rewarded from my insurance company for doing that and for being in good shape. And it just seems like the proper incentives aren't there yet on the prevention side.
Well, I think I'm hoping that we'll be getting into that. I'm hoping that we'll be rewarded more for doing that, because let's face it, the cost of insurance is going up. Yep. Because just to do testing, to try to diagnose all these diseases is getting more and more expensive. The cost of medications is getting more and more expensive. People want to look for alternatives.
I can't emphasize enough. Jim Fixx died of a heart attack, and he was healthy. He worked out. And going back to the mitochondria, it seems to me that that's really the paradigm that we're addressing. The day that people are going to be able to take a supplement or a medication that fortifies their immune systems and allows them to live longer, and that's the case that he makes in the book, and that I find fascinating, and why I recommend reading the book, because I think it's a glimpse into the next 20 years. Suffice to say, the medical companies are going to make money no matter what. Sinclair has already started a company called Certus. Is that right, Jeff?
Mm-hmm.
So,
so this is going to come into the mainstream. So I think it's a fascinating subject. It really looks to me that we're in a situation where we're going to be looking at the next 20, 30 years and seeing more and more people living to 100.
Well, when you look way back, and I looked at this back in 1850, yeah. A 70-year-old man if you were 70 years old in the year 1850,
big anomaly.
Well, yes, but if you did make it there, you actually were expected to live to 79. In the year 2000, if you were 70 years old, you were only expected to live to 82.
It's such a fascinating subject. We're running out of time. I want to thank our viewers for joining us. Next week, we're going to discuss how public relations can help build a business or your reputation. I'm James DeGiorgia.
And I'm Jeff Garbaz for The Market Guys. Good night.
To receive a copy of your favorite Wealth and Wisdom episode, or if you have a question or comment about our program, please feel free to write us at Wealth and Wisdom, care of WXEL, P.O. Box 6607, West Palm Beach, Florida 33405. Or call us at 1-800-915-9935, extension 4477. We look forward to hearing from you soon.